Welcome. Ed Martin here in the Pro America Report. Great to be together and great to be on Andrea Kaye's show earlier tonight. She is super. She's always so nice to me, and I'm glad so many of her listeners will stay through after her show to be with me. So great to be with you. Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Don't forget, go to proamericareport.com, proamericareport.com. Get signed up. You get the Daily Wink. The Daily Wink, what you need to know. You'll have that, a couple of articles, a couple key points, usually one of the segments from the show. Everything you need to know. Start your day right. Comes out at 5 a.m. Pacific time. 5 a.m. Pacific time. So you'll have it way before usually people get up and are looking at their email. Hopefully they're not. Which reminds me, let me say something. I was going to say this till the end of this segment, but I have had this experience, and I think it should catch on. I call it Unplug America. Unplug America. I mostly say unplug to myself. I don't need to say it to America, but I think it's pretty good. And that is, the news is just terrible. All sides. It's just, I was watching the Rushmore speech on Friday night with my wife, and it was on late. I don't know if you stayed up and watched it. I'm on the East Coast, so it was on at must have been almost 10:30 my time in the evening. So it was very late. I'm watching it, and before I put it on, because I thought it was on earlier, I watched like an hour and a half of the streaming coverage of the so-called protests, the Native American protests. There was about 15 people. The extent of their protest was parking two vans, which had to be towed out of the way. That was it. It wasn't like there was 1,000 people. It wasn't like there was a coordinated effort. It was like maybe 24 people. And I watched that because I was thinking, when is this going to start? Well, then I'm watching the speech. Trump's giving a speech, a beautiful setting, the lights on the Mount Rushmore, and a ticker comes across the bottom, a banner, and it says, Trump confronted by protesters at Mount Rushmore. And he wasn't confronted. He wasn't anything. He wasn't anywhere near there. It wasn't like they were particularly effective. My point is, even Fox News, which is what I was watching, is trying to drive you crazy with the dopamine hit of, oh my gosh, what's going on? I got to see it. Find out more. Meanwhile, CNN and MSNBC, everybody's lying to you. So my point here is unplug America. The fake news media is killing us, all of us, literally killing us. Literally driving us crazy. Not literally killing us, that's too much. Driving us crazy, literally driving us crazy. Figuratively killing many of us. Driving people into despair, everything else. So unplug, especially like each night. I've decided I'm not watching anything. I'm not looking at social media after about 7 o'clock in the evening. I'll come home, have dinner. I might check in on things one more time before it's 6:30 or 7. Then leave it. Unplug. It'd be good for you. All right. But what do you need to know today? I was thinking about this weekend. Getting ready. It's such a long period of time, especially with the holiday. I haven't been on the radio with you guys in 4 days. And so I was thinking, I could talk about China, the communist Chinese. Not only have they dominated Hong Kong, they've now got their big ships and planes out towards the South China Sea, and America's out there with our aircraft carriers, and it's just everybody's flexing their muscles. And I'm thinking, man, China's on the move. Article in the Wall Street Journal about how China's got the market cornered on PPE, protective equipment for healthcare workers. I don't know what the PPE stands for, but protective something equipment. But they have the market cornered. Just like I was reminded in the 1970s and 80s, the late Phyllis Schlafly, my boss, was writing columns about how the Chinese were getting the market cornered on drugs. Anyway, my point here is China's on the march, communist Chinese on the march all over the place. Meanwhile, because of the Hong Kong national security law that China passed, if you can believe this, there's a report now that law enforcement, when they asked WhatsApp, the Facebook-owned texting app, when law enforcement in America would ask for help from the WhatsApp about things in Hong Kong, they would participate because of the new rule. Facebook/WhatsApp said they got to check. They're going to check with the Chinese communists. This is what I thought. Well, I could talk about China, but I don't want to talk about China because what I want to talk about is a few hours ago, Joe Biden said he's going to beat Donald Trump and transform. We will transform America. What does transform America mean? If you watched all weekend long, you could see a glimpse of what transforming America could be. And don't think for a moment that if Biden wins, the people that are doing what they're doing, the glimpse into what they're doing, are going to say, oh, good, we won, we'll sit back. No, they're going to be in charge. They're going to be the people who are running America is the people over the weekend who are watching. We got lawlessness in our cities. We got killings in our cities. Kids dying. A child killed in Atlanta after the car was surrounded by protesters and then shooting started. And guess what? The child, it's not a white child, African-American child. So as one of the parents, another one in Washington, D.C., child killed, 11-year-old by a drive-by shooting. And one of the parents, or grandparents in this case, said about this, they said, you said Black Lives Matter. They don't seem to matter to you. We're killing ourselves. We're killing each other. That's the lawlessness. Defund the police. Tear down statutes. There's nothing rational. One of the Black Lives Matter leaders, Black Lives Matter New York, one of the biggest chapters, he said, if we get everything we want without violence, okay. But if we don't get everything we want, we'll just use violence. We'll burn it down. He didn't say burn it down. I think he did say burn it down, actually. But the point here is, it's a terrorist movement. And here's the wrinkle. Here's what you need to know. And this is the message I got to tell you. It's time to stand up. 17 weeks from tomorrow is the election day. 119 days. It's not a long time. It's not a long time. Friend of mine is a DEA agent, retired, big tough guy, macho man, real strong character. His wife came home and said, I want to put a Trump sign in the yard. He said, I don't think we should do that. Because why would we want to risk somebody throwing a Molotov cocktail into our house? That's what he said. He knows law. He's law enforcement. He knows. We've got our law enforcement is pulling back because the people in this country are not standing with them. The media is so against them. And here's what you need to know. We're at the point now, we got 119 days. If you want to see America transformed, then sit back and say, well, man, it's a tough thing. It's a pandemic. Once every 100 years, you get a pandemic and the economy's stalled and people are mad. I mean, there's some people that are mad and it's in there. Or you can step up and fight back. Or you can step up and say, look, here's the direction the country's got to go on. All lives matter. Black lives matter, of course. White lives matter, of course. All lives matter. Of course, they all matter. The question is whether you're using a terrorist organization, Black Lives Matter, to scare people, to terrify people, to destroy the country. That's what's happening. If you listen closely to the president's speech, which they tore apart. They said it was too divisive or something like that. I don't know what they mean. All he was saying was America's greatness, who we are as a people, has this history, imperfect though it may be, but it's always grown forward. It's always gotten better. We've always strived to be better. And the Black Lives Matter people, all they want to say is you're bad, you're evil, the country's wrong, you're in the wrong. How does that solve anything? Give me an example. Systemic racism, defund the police. That's not a reasonable answer. That's an ending of our society answer. What you need to know is now's the time to stand up and say, if you have a real concern, bad cop, will prosecute him. Not all cops, not defund cops, not belittle cops, not besmirch cops, not drive them crazy. In places like in New Jersey, the Attorney General is publishing the names of cops who have had incidents, any problems, whether they're serious or not. They're going to put their names out there, making them targets. If you put a sign in your yard for Trump, are you going to get a Molotov cocktail? That's what a retired DEA agent said. When I stood at that tent on Saturday, this Republican tent near the farmer's market near where I live, Trump signs, local candidate signs, people would come up and they say, I'm just so glad to see you out here because we don't know what to do. People are afraid. It's terrorism. It's terror. Terror to say what you really believe. Fear to put out what you really hold dear. And the media of all sides, Fox News is in there too, just pounding away, making you feel nervous and worried and scared. And here's what we have to go back to. We have the greatest country in the history of living together. And we have got to fight to keep all the aspects of it that we have today that make all the flourishing possible. Get rid of the imperfections. I'll tell you number one thing. I've told you before. You want to talk about institutional poverty, institutional insulting, institutional degradation. I don't even believe in institutional racism. I think it's a lie and it's a taunt. But I know there's one institution that's been degrading society, happens to be mostly poor kids, happens to be lots of minority kids. That's our public schools in inner cities. Just devastating families. You want to change the world, literally, and change the nation. Tomorrow, announce that you're eliminating all public schools in the cities, and every kid who lives in the city, his mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or guardian gets a single piece of paper that says go to any school you want, anywhere. It's work as money, a voucher. That'll change the world. All right, that's what you need to know. We got to take a break. We come back. We got some great interviews and a lot more. Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Be back in a moment.